Hey there, this is Sam Sorbo. You've heard me talk about Mike Lindell and how his My Pillow has given me the best night's sleep. I adore My Pillow, but he also continues to roll out offers on his other products. His latest is on the towel set. Towels aren't something you think about very often. And I never knew what I was missing until I tried his towels, I got to say. So you've all helped My Pillow grow into the incredible company it is today. You've trusted in Mike to give you a good night's sleep and with the pillows and the sheets. And now he's changing the game. He's got a 6-piece towel set. It's custom made with USA cotton, and it's extremely absorbent, and it still is soft. It's just the perfect combination towel. Comes with 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, 2 washcloths, and that would typically retail for as high as $109. I mean, but for a limited time only, you can get this set for the low price of only $39.99. That's incredible. And you have to use my promo code, though. The promo code is Sam Sorbo. And remember, all My Pillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and you'll get the insanely low price of $39.99 for 2 towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths. And you'll also find other deep discounts on the other My Pillow products as well. Just don't forget, use the promo code Sam Sorbo, just all one word, all snuck together, Sam Sorbo, or call 800-625-5983 for these great radio and podcast specials. Thanks so much. We've discovered, my husband and I, a great American company that supports our traditional values and also the work we're doing to rescue our culture from the lies of the left. So I want you to go check it out. It's called NutraMedics.com, NutraMedics.com. And you can find there great health and wellness products that are derived from the rainforests. I've found that they work incredibly for me. I take their melatonin. I get a much better night's sleep with that. I also take their Relax Medics and their Mood Medics, which are, I don't know what they are, but they're this natural blend of herbs, basically, and really easy to take. They actually droppers, and I just love their products, and I love what they stand for, because they have a heart for this nation and they have a heart for people. And I don't know how you would have one without the other. And that's why maybe they have both. But I just love what they do. So go to NutraMedics.com, and you can actually go to sorbo.nutramedics, and that's with an X, sorbo.nutramedics.com. If you use Sorbo at checkout, you'll get a discount on anything that you purchase there. So go check it out. Get a better night's sleep, get a better day, feel better about yourself. They've got a lot of great products there, including vitamins. I use them all. So trust me, it's great. NutraMedics.com. And thank you so much for listening. Hi there, Sam Sorbo here for the Playbook for Home Learning Conference this June 24-25 in Port St. Lucie, Southern Florida. I hope you'll join me there. You can go to samsorbo.com for all ticketing information, but I just want to give you a brief overview. First of all, it is a playbook. So you will leave with a playbook, which is like a workbook, a textbook, a guidebook, if you will, a journal, a notebook from the conference that you'll take home with you to help you uncover how to get education done with your children. We're going to talk about why you would even make that choice, what's going on in the schools, just a little bit about all of the indicators that we have that we shouldn't be putting our children into that system that seeks their destruction, really. What about me time? We'll cover that. Curriculum, we'll cover that. How to teach different learning styles. What about socialization? Also, how do I set up? What kind of filing do I have to do? We're going to cover all the bases to get you started on the journey of educating your children at home where they belong. And I will cast a vision for you so you will see what your life could be like when you take on this awesome responsibility and this tremendous joy of educating your children at home. You can do it, and I can show you how. So join me at the conference this June 24, 25 in Port St. Lucie. That's a Friday evening and a Saturday day. And I'll look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you'll also be able to connect with community. You'll meet other people who are in the same boat. And it's always more fun if you know that other people are going through the same stuff with you. Join me then. Hi, this is the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks for joining me. My guest now is an author. She's a writer. Obviously, she writes opinions at the Washington Times, and she's also host of the Bold and Blunt podcast. She does daily commentaries on politics, culture from a Christian conservative perspective. And she's got a new book coming out, which is called Lockdown: The Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. Welcome to the podcast, Cheryl Chumley.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me. I appreciate the chance to chat with you again.
It's so fun because, gosh, I met Cheryl years ago in the Fox newsroom, like yes. Green room. And I don't know, we just sort of, I liked you. Like we just sort of hit it off. We chatted a little bit, and then we've been sort of trading emails back and forth and articles and podcasts, and you've been on the show, obviously. And now you've got this new book, which I really hope it's coming out May 3rd. Yep. Anywhere fine books are sold, you can go find it. And I really hope that people take note, because we have to understand there's been a major shift that just happened, right?
Absolutely, in this country, due in large part to the coronavirus. And look,
hold on. Due to our response yes. to the coronavirus, right? We've got to put the blame where the blame is due. And I don't want the nefarious elements to get away with blaming the coronavirus, because it had literally nothing. It was an excuse.
Absolutely. And toward your point, I do elaborate on just that in my book, In Lockdown, because it is the government's response. It's the government's exploitation of the coronavirus that has led America down this perilous path of losing individual liberties, and more importantly, God-given liberties. And, you know, you talk about when we first met in the green room years ago, and what I most admired about you, and honestly, this is stuck with me through the years, is that in one of our discussions, I think it was on your show years ago, you said the biggest problem in America is the fact that churches are emptied, and that's what we need to bring this country back to its greatness. And that right there is the whole problem of what is wrong with America right now. The fact that Christians are not filling the pews, they're not being involved in the politics. And if we do get back to church, America's problems will be solved.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I stand by that, and I've developed it a bit further. It's yes, the churches are empty and the schools are full. Yes. And we need to empty the schools and fill the churches. It's really That's what true. We need to do. So because now we can't lay all the blame at the feet of the government. They had help by the proletariat, by the citizenry, because of the fear. And it's funny because I was just talking with Tammy Peterson, and she mentioned this towards the end, and she said that anything that you put in front of you before God is idolatry or ideology. She didn't say idolatry, and I conflated the two, right. But that's more on me. But in fact, it's the golden calf, right? It's the thing that because that becomes your highest value. And she mentioned fear. And I said, yeah, because fear became the highest value. And so whatever we did it based on fear, which is why the Bible, of course, 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." And the reason that we say sound mind is because we can think our way around fear, because fear is just an emotion. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't dictate. We should not be allowing our emotions to dictate. But more and more in our society, we allow our emotions to dictate. And we just saw that. I don't know if you want to comment on the Will Smith slap.
Well, that was a ridiculous moment in cultural history in America right now. And it kind of epitomizes where we're at in this country. It's just, when somebody like Will Smith, I saw that video and I watched it several times because, of course, there was that long running discussion about whether it was real or fake, because we had years ago, of course, who was it, that comedian Andy Kaufman and that wrestler staging that whole fake slap. And so people wanted to know, was this real or fake? And I watched it several times, and it just seemed to me very indicative of where our society stands in terms of cultural degradation, that we would embrace something like that as this is the way to defend your family. This is what family values stand for in America. And again, it all goes back to the emptying of the churches. If Americans are properly morally compassed based on biblical truths, things like the Will Smith face slap don't happen. Things like the government being able to order churches to close based on the fear of a coronavirus don't happen. And, you can go on and on at length, but all roads lead back to God. All roads lead back to biblical truths. And when we stray from those, we have, scores of problems, both in the culture and the political world.
Yeah. And I just want to say that I watched it several times because I couldn't believe he slapped him. Like, yeah. What man slaps another man? Like, it's sort of like, well, let me remove my glove and I throw down my glove and a duel at dawn.
Right. How dare you?
That?
Yeah.
But I think more importantly, look, I don't understand anybody going up on stage at the Oscars to do violence to, like, I'm sorry, that whole thing. But the reaction of the crowd, and particularly young people who completely misunderstood the joke to be an insult, which it was not. It was an homage. It was actually a very flattering thing to say. But they didn't understand it because they don't know what G.I. Jane, the movie, is.
Right.
And so they totally misunderstood the whole thing. And for them to then say, oh, the slap was justified because, of course, Chris Rock was just asking for it because words hurt and they're equivalent to violence. So violence can be equated here. And it was the natural reaction. No. Just just full stop. Absolutely not. And it's a very sad statement to say that our culture has now moved to this level. And I wonder how your book sort of handles this idea that through coronavirus, the left has really gotten a stranglehold on many of our cultural norms now. But they were doing that long before, right?
Of course, the left, this is their ongoing campaign, right? They want control and power. So they look for various ends in America's politics and culture. And one of the biggest ways they have found an in recent years, and you know this yourself, because most of your campaign in life is based on this activism, is in the school system. And what we have now coming out of the school systems are a complete generation of of youth who cannot critically think. They're run by emotion, which is what you were just describing about the whole reaction to the Will Smith incident. This is the youth of America. This is America's emerging leadership. They don't think, they don't look at the consequences of actions, they don't look at cause and effect, and they certainly don't look at the Constitution with any favorable eyes, because they've been trained to believe that our entire government construct in America is inherently racist. And so in my book, In Lockdown, of course, I touch upon the youth, and I go into the colleges and I look at what colleges have done in terms of brainwashing their students into believing that government surveillance is something that should be done on a daily basis. If you look at the coronavirus and how colleges have pushed things like the contact tracing app on your smartphone, where you have to show a green check in order to travel freely on campus. Or they push things like tattletaling on your fellow students anonymously when those students don't wear face masks or socially distance. These are alarming realities from the coronavirus, where fear is being instilled in our youth. And these same youth are going to come out of college thinking the government is number one, and surveillance is something that should be part and parcel of normal American society.
Yeah, and fear's been normalized. Like
yes.
they're just taught that, yeah, because you're afraid, all of these other things, and it's normal to be afraid, and so just behave this way.
Yes, absolutely.
What's the most astonishing thing that you discovered in researching the book?
That's a good question, because there was a lot. But on one chapter, I talk about Congressman Bobby Rush. He is a Democrat from Illinois. He's been in office for a long time, and he introduced this bill to fund contact tracing efforts for a year, $100 billion of taxpayer money going to fund contact tracing. And when you start peeling back the layers of what this contact tracing means, it sends government entities into practically your own home to make sure that you have been vaccinated, to make sure that you are properly safe, to make sure that if your kids have tested positive for the coronavirus, that you're doing the proper government approved measures to take care of yourself. And Bobby Rush's office denies that their bill, of course, does this. But in my book, I showcase how they open the doors for others in government, in local government, to come in and basically knock on your door and ensure, a la China-like, right? Ensure that you're doing all the properly approved government protections dealing with the coronavirus. This is big government surveillance at its worst, and this is where our society is headed.
So what do you hope people take away from the book?
I hope people are educated about the need that this is the 12th hour in America. And when I say that, I don't say it, with a hyperbole or anything like that. This is really coming down to the head in America, where Christians specifically need to start activating and getting more and more involved in the politics, in local government, state government, federal government, because the evil forces of the far left have taken control of so much in America's government that if we don't put a stop to it now, our next generation is not going to know what freedoms in this country really represent.
Is the book is not geared towards young people though, right?
Young people could read it, but it's not a child's book. No, it's not a school book.
No. So how do we reach younger people? Because, I talk to older people who have money, right? The affluent people, and they're donating their money to political campaigns, right? And they want to beat the guys who the guys like the one that you just mentioned, who are proposing these ridiculous spending bills on things that are just government control, avenues. But we can change all the policy we want. If our youth is growing up thinking that it's better for government to be, fully engaged inside people's private lives, then it'll all be reversed in 10, 20 years, right?
Right, right. We're only as safe as the next election, right? So that's why going to the churches, that's why an uprising in the churches, a reawakening of the churches is so crucial. Because let me put it in terms of parenting, because you and I both you have 4 kids, right? I have 4 kids, you have
3.
4?
My husband, I suppose, counts a little bit.
Okay, so you know that you can lay down the law in your home all you want, right? And your kids may obey, they may disobey, but the thing that really keeps your kids glued to doing the right thing is when you capture their hearts, right? When they love you, and out of love for you and respect for you, they do what's right just because they don't want your disapproval. Well, it's the same way in America, right? The American spirit is something that we need in the conservative movement and in the Christian movement to really grab a hold of and start to sell to America's youth. The youth in America right now are captured by socialism because they think that it sounds so great. Equality for everybody, everybody has enough.
They've been taught, and they're not reading George Orwell.
Exactly. They've been taught that. So we need to start telling the youth that it's really independence and individual liberties, and more specifically, God-given liberties, where God plants in each individual at birth certain talents to grow and use, and that's your passion in life. And socialism kills that. So while we're teaching our children that, we need to start fighting at the school system, because you have been nailing it for years, Sam. That's where the real war in America comes from, the school system. We need more Christian conservatives serving on school boards, going into the evil den of the public school system and teaching there. And as a parent, if you're able, to homeschool or to at least privately school your child.
Yeah, I don't even, you don't know this, but I've morphed yet some more probably since we last spoke. There's no redeeming the school system, because the system itself is a perversion of education. They don't accomplish education; they accomplish the opposite. And so, but I recognize, the thought behind your efforts there to get people involved. And I'm hoping really that the more people determined to be involved, the more they will understand that there's no fixing it, and that it's really child abuse to send your child to school at this point, because it is. What criticisms do you have of the previous administration that you go through in the book?
Yeah, I love Donald Trump and I love the Trump administration, but you can't deny that he was the one that shut down the country. And, I don't really fault him for that so much as when he gave over the White House platform to Anthony Fauci and Deborah Birx. And he basically stepped back, and he may have done it because he felt pressured to turn over some sort of medical decisions to a medical bureaucrat, thinking that Anthony Fauci knew more medically about the coronavirus. But at the same time, what he did was he put liberty, individual liberty, second to medical safety. And in this country, it always has to be individual decision-making, individual liberties first, and then can come government recommendations and advisements for, best health practices and so forth. So my fault with Donald Trump comes from the fact that I think he gave too much power to Anthony Fauci, and we are still feeling the negative ramifications of that today.
Yeah, and where'd Fauci go? He hasn't been around for a little while.
Yeah, he popped up a week or two ago, kind of talking about face masks again. But yeah, he has been
and advocating for personal autonomy, which was like, really now? Well, now, he's got to walk everything back because everything that they predicted is wrong. But what I'm seeing from Walensky, Rachel Walensky of the CDC, she will tweet complete lies with no backup statistics for them.
Yeah.
And with impunity, doesn't even just tweets a lie. Similar to, was it Sotomayor on the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
who said 300,000 children have died from coronavirus? No, not even close. Not even like the number is, sadly, I don't mean anything by this, but insignificant, compared to what they were talking about. And
Yeah.
yet she brought that up as if it were factual. And she sits on the Supreme Court, which, by the way, to remind everybody, the Supreme Court issues opinions. They're not decisions, they're opinions.
Right. That's
But we
good
forget
point.
that. We think the Supreme Court makes the law. I mean, come on, folks. Well, okay. How much money has transferred with let's just take vaccines? You did that research and put it in this book. I mean, your book is filled with information, pertinent, valuable information about this lockdown, this whole travesty of justice that we've all experienced. But talk to me about moolah.
Yeah, and you know what? That my book was written April of last year. Okay, that's when I turned in the manuscript. It was supposed to come out in November, got delayed because of the coronavirus supply chain issues. Then again in January, same thing, and then again in March to April, same thing. So,
Yeah.
the supply chain issues are still a factor. So the facts and figures about money, you can multiply them by several times over. The vaccines have netted these big pharma companies billions of dollars. They are making record numbers of profits from these vaccines.
But
And
Cheryl, they're going to need it, because when people start suing them,
yeah,
they're going to have to cover it.
yeah. Well, the bigger concern here is the ties and the curious links between the same government bureaucrats that issue the policy advisements to take your shot and your booster and your third booster and your fourth booster are tied to some of these vaccine policies. And if you look at Anthony Fauci, for instance, he joined with Bill Gates a decade ago on this campaign called the Decade of Vaccines. And what it was aimed at was bringing forward new vaccine developments to vaccinate the world. And so here Anthony Fauci is advising policy, pushing policy that everybody in America and around the world should get these vaccinations, not just one, but all the accompanying boosters. And here he is with ties to Bill Gates making money off these same vaccines. The big question is, why wasn't the media looking at this? That's
Wait,
such a
are you
glaring.
saying, are you saying, I think it's called conflict of interest. Are you
Right.
saying he has a conflict of interest?
I know, just a teeny little one, right? Just maybe a little tiny question mark there. But the media just fell flat on doing its job entirely with this whole coronavirus.
So I'm going to push back on you again, Cheryl. We have to stop saying the media's failed. The media is succeeding. We just don't recognize the media as the enemy.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
And I really think that we need to start changing our language. The media did exactly what the media wanted to do, which was stoke the fear and be part of the control. The media is part of the totalitarianism that is trying to take over America. The good news is, like you talked about my kids and how they do what I ask them to do because they want to obey me. And I'll go one step further. My kids do what I want them to do because they are smarter than I am. And they recognize when I have a good idea or, have good advice. But I was sitting with my kids this morning. We typically have breakfast together every morning. And I was sitting with them and I started laughing because I said, it's kind of crazy. How did you guys turn out so great? I mean, you're more conservative than I am. And that is saying something. And my oldest son was like, you're barely conservative, Mom. I mean, seriously. And my daughter was like, oh, that's true.
That's great, though. I mean, that's great. Not only does it show that you raised your children to think for themselves, which is, that's a proper parental role, but it gives me a little bit of hope for America, because similarly, my kids too take part in politics, and they have an interest in the direction of this nation, and they know what God-given liberty is, which is the real basis of exceptionalism in this country.
So I want everybody to go out and buy 3 copies of Cheryl's book, one for yourself, one for your mother-in-law, and one for the leftist down the street, because, share the wealth. And also, if you're listening to this podcast and you are not homeschooling yet, and don't call it homeschooling, we're calling it home learning, because it is not school. It's most decidedly not school. And if you have any questions, you come to my, I'm hosting a conference in June 24, 25 here in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And so you go to my website, samsorbo.com, to find out anything more. Cheryl, you have a website. You want to share that with people?
It's CherylChumley.com. Thank you.
And Cheryl is spelled Cheryl. Mm-hmm. Chumley has an E, Chumley. CherylChumley.com. And you can get the book anywhere fine books are sold. Lockdown, the Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. It's a plan. They've put it into action, but they won't succeed if we are paying attention. And the great news is it won't take a lot of us to foil their plan, but we have to be diligent and we have to stand firm. And that's where we're getting a little wishy-washy. And there's a bunch of wishy-washy people in Washington right now. And I have a feeling that they might be enjoying some conflict of interest there. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're quite right.
You're in Washington. You see it, right? You must see it.
Every day, Sam, every day.
All right. Anything else you want to let people know before we?
You know what? Just God bless and save America.
God bless America. This is the land of the home of the land of the brave, home of the free. No, land of the free, home of the brave. Still, because there are still people out there who are saying, I am a free person. And hey, by the way, if you're going on a plane anytime soon, just don't wear your mask in the airport. And the reason I say that is because there's nobody in the airport who can actually force you to wear your mask.
Good point.
They say they can, and they say that it's a federal law, but it was never passed into law. It's just been mandated. And guess what? We're the United States of America. We don't have mandates. They don't actually exist. They only exist as figments of people's imagination. And the totalitarians are letting their imaginations run wild. And so you just, if somebody says, why aren't you wearing a mask? You just say, oh, that's not my religion. It's not my religion. I don't wear a hijab. I also don't wear a mask. The only time I'll wear a mask is on an airplane because I have to get where I'm going. But I've stopped wearing the mask on the planes too. It's like a 50-50. Sometimes you get the mask Nazis where they insist, in which case you wear the mask, but sometimes they don't insist. So I want to encourage you in particular, but other people also, Cheryl, because we so follow directions. That's a result of our schooling.
Yep.
We've all been schooled. We're all school injured at this point. And we just follow directions, even when we know they're wrong. That's what's crazy. Well, would your friends, would you jump off a bridge if all your friends were jumping off a bridge? Apparently so. We're living in a culture where, yes, if all my friends are jumping off a bridge, well, I guess I got to go jump now. No, stand up for yourself, right?
That's right. You nailed it. That's it in a nutshell.
I'm getting on my high horse, Cheryl. Pull me down.
No, you need to ride it more. That's great. We all should.
It's a good horse. So yeah, you just you pull your mask down. You see if they correct you. If they don't, take it off. See if they correct you. And what I've started doing is I take my mask off, and if they don't correct me, then I put it on when they come serve drinks. because, and I said this to the guy sitting next to me, he wore his mask the entire time, the entire flight. He's like this, the whole flight, pulling his mask up because we were chatting. And he goes, I see what you did just there. You just put your mask on. What are you, a hypocrite? And I said, no, I just did her a favor because her job is to tell me to put the mask on. And she doesn't want to tell me to put the mask on very clearly. She hasn't said it once, but I don't want to be in her face about it. So I put it on. So I'm saving her the problem of having to decide, do I have to tell her to put the mask on? It is my job.
Yeah.
You see, we can be kind to people and still stand up for our freedoms.
Yeah. Without the government telling us what to do. Yep.
Amen to that. Cheryl Chumley, thank you so much for joining me. She's the author of Lockdown, the Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. This is the Sam Sorbo Show.